guys, so if you've been watching our lathe videos, you might have noticed there was a little bit missing. And this is the prequel. This is episode 0. We're gonna, at the end of this video, we're gonna throw in some stuff, some video footage that got misplaced in the making of some of our videos. As of right now, we're only up to video 4, so you don't have to go back too far. If you have been watching our stuff, if you're just starting, then hopefully you'll start with this, and it won't matter. But the first thing I want to do is go over some of the preliminary stuff that we did working in. Video 1 shows you the lathe and what it looked like when we got started. But right before we got into working on anything with it, right after I got the machine, what I always do, and this is just how I do the job, if you're restoring one of these, you might do it different. And that's another note on when I say restore. What I mean, I'm not regrinding the bedways on this machine. That's too expensive for what I'm going to do. I'm taking this machine and I'm getting it ready to go into service in my shop. That's what I ultimately mean by restore. I'm restoring it to my standard to get this machine up and running, usable, in good condition for what I need to use it for without breaking the bank. Because if I had the bed reground and ordered all new parts when I was needing, something was missing, I could just go out and buy a new lathe. So we're getting this thing going to my standard. So don't troll me too bad. Don't say, oh, you just took it apart and painted it. That's not restoration. I want to get that out there to start with. So the way I do it, when I get a machine like this, I've restored several machines for my shop. The first thing I do after I get it and I catalog what's missing and what's broken is I start doing research. Now I can sit in the comfort of my home with my laptop and just research these things on my spare time. And you want all the documentation you can get for these machines. It'll help you discover how this went together or that went together, or what missing part goes there. Get everything you possibly can information-wise on the piece of equipment you're restoring. Now, the first thing we got on this machine, when I bought the machine initially, I was given this, and this is just some random pages that he had got from somewhere. Here, the first page is labeled page 6, but it's engine lathe nomenclature, and it's a LeBlond. It's a bigger LeBlond, but nevertheless. And this is actually, it's got a lot of information. You can see he just printed it on some scrap paper, but this is the parts breakdown to that machine. And this is super helpful because I actually have not been able to find this for free online. So if they hand you anything with the machine you're buying, take it, because you never know what. A lot of times you're in a hurry, you're loading it, the guy says here's some paperwork that goes with the machine. You might rifle through it and there'll be 2 pieces out of the whole thing that's even there. You might throw some junk in there and not even realizing. But a lot of times you don't have time to look at it when you're doing the deal. Just take it all. Take everything they will possibly give you, and including stories. And that's a personal thing with me. I like to know the history behind the machines, where it's been, where it came from, what kind of industry was it in, or homes, or what was done with the machine. So ask them questions, hear what they have to say. So that was a good thing that he gave us. Speaking of history of this particular machine, I actually called up the company. LeBlond is still in business, and I initially emailed them, and then I called and talked to someone in customer service, and I was able to work out a deal. They sent me the original purchase order for this machine. Now, LeBlond, I think, has, and I forget what the fee for this was, LeBlond has all the purchase orders for their machines back to a certain date. And this purchase order shows everything, shows when it was ordered, who ordered it, everything that was included with this machine when it was new. And from that we found out that this was ordered by a machinery dealer in 42. It's a 1943 lathe. It was shipped in 43 to Army Air Corps. and I believe Army Air Corps was just getting set up and established around that time. So I think this was probably some of the first Army Air Corps machinery that was bought, which led me to my paint scheme. Army Air Corps colors are blue in the kind of a gold color. So I'm going to paint this machine blue. I would imagine it was probably machine gray when it was new, maybe even a war finish gray. But I'm going to go with a blue, and I'm even going to honor them. I ordered this sticker. I'm going to put this sticker on the machine just to kind of honor its history, even though that is not original to the machine. So all that being said, we're still into talking about research on the machine. I got on, there's a really good website called vintagemachinery.org. Become a member. If you're into this, become a member of that website. You can find a lot of resources, a lot of PDFs of manuals and such, and you can post the same thing. Got a ton of other people posting their projects, pictures, publication reprints. I got on there and I found a service manual for the 12, 14, 16, and 18. Now ours is a 13, but there's a lot of overlap with these machines. This is a good book to have, and this was free. It was a PDF. I printed it off for free. I also found a copy of the Running a Regal. This is the book that would have come with that machine. Now I went ahead and printed this off. Later on eBay, Lindsay Publications reprints this book, and I ordered a nice copy of it. But it's the same. This is the same book. If you don't want to, I think this was maybe $10. If you don't want to pay it, this is the same book. I just wanted a nice copy. So we got both of those. Photos. You're going to want photos. We got photos of the lathe when we first got it. We've actually got a lot more photos of various parts of it, so you want to be able to reference it, look back, see how something went together, because you may not be so lucky as to have the parts manual. These are a couple of in-progress photos. We got a ton more of these. I'm not going to bore you with showing you all those. Another good thing, keep all your emails. These are some emails for some people that I bought parts from. Also from the Vintage Machinery site. I printed up some of these. These are attachments. This is on a 17-inch lathe, but you're going to have some overlap. Companies built stuff very similar. A lot of the same parts. Save them monies. Any of this stuff you can print up to look at. LeBlond website had a history of the Regal lathe. I printed that up and I've read this. Print all this stuff up, or at least give it a read. It'll help you in the long run when you're working on these machines. This is from the Vintage Machinery. This is on the company that made the motor for this machine. I learned a little bit about that. It's a good learning experience. Last thing I'm going to talk about, well, second to last, our paint scheme. We found this bright blue from Ace. I like this Ace premium paint. It goes on nice. It's a spray. They have a machinery gray that I paint a lot of equipment with, but we're going with this bright blue. It's similar enough to the Army Air Corps blue for us, and then I'm going to accent it with the black, gloss black. So now, I promise you this is the last thing I'm going to tell you about this, and then we'll show you some clips that we kind of got swept under the rug and we forgot to put in some of the other videos. These are reference photos off the internet. I just did a Google search. This is the decal that's supposed to go on the headstock, and I've got a local printing company working on reproducing this, because as of right now I have not found anyone that reproduces this decal now. So I'm having them reproduce this for me. Print out some pictures of assembled machines where you can look at it and see if you're missing something that you didn't realize. This is a good point about referencing. Our machine is missing some parts of the taper attachment, and it's parts that we can make, but we need to know what they look like. This was on eBay. This complete taper attachment was for sale on eBay, and it went for way more than I was willing to pay, and frankly we didn't need all this. We just need a couple parts. But there's one of the parts we need. Now we can see that part, and we can reference our book that shows the parts breakdown, and it's also sitting beside parts we have. We can measure these parts, and we can scale this part by knowing these measurements, and then scaling that to the measurements of the picture. We can get exactly how big and the dimensions of this part that we need. So check eBay, even if if you can't afford it, and a lot of us, we're restoring these because we can't afford a new machine, or we just like the old iron. This is a good reference photo. This is going to help us when we're doing the gearbox. It's just a picture of the gearbox. Another reference of the gearbox in the machine. This is someone that did a really nice restoration, it looks like. And then I have a few switch pictures that's similar to the switch on ours, so I can get the front of it back the way it's supposed to be, because the switch on ours had several layers of paint on it and we could not save the writing on it. So that's just a little prequel intro there about what we did before we started the restoration process, right after we got the lathe, before we started taking anything apart. Now I'll leave you with that and show you some footage that we left out. Okay, welcome back to more on the lathe project here. I've taken some stuff off of it and taken it back to the shop. As you can see, the tailstock's missing and some more small stuff. I've been doing kind of a piece or two a day. And we've cataloged everything that's missing. I went over what I thought was missing in the first video that we shot. This handle over here is broke. We're missing a piece to this taper attachment. It's just like a long bolt and a piece that actually clips on the ways, which we can make that. That's not going to be a problem. And a few more little things. The hand wheel on the end of the tailstock was broke, but I'm going to fix that myself too, try to save some money. Here's the real damage. As you can see out here, this shaft just doesn't seem right, does it? And this is the main drive. And it goes down to motor mounts on the back. And we were missing one of the belt guards, big cast iron belt guard. It's 2-section. I was missing that, but the guy I bought this from actually called and said he found it, and I went and got it. So that was good. That saved us about $100 on eBay. About what a half of those is going for. But in here, this was the problem with this lathe. You can see something happened. I would imagine it chipped a tooth and stacked it and bent this shaft. These teeth are just gone off of this gear, and this is a cluster gear. It's 3 gears made together. And apparently whoever ran this machine had problems before, because it's hard to see, but there's supposed to be, this is the low gear here, and it's gone completely. They've machined a bushing just to go in there and fill its space, and taken out that gear completely. When it tore this gear up, it also mangled the mating gear for it, which is also, these 4 are a cluster gear together. Now I contacted LeBlond. They're still in business, and they're super friendly folks, real helpful, but they're very expensive. They said that they could make these gears for me. They actually said they thought they had one on the shelf, but because of the vintage of this machine, we found out it's a 1943. They would have to make these gears, and if they make them, you're looking at almost $900 for one gear, $1,500 for another gear, and they want like $900 for this shaft. So I said thanks, but no thanks on that one. If I did have to go that route, there's a company called Boston Gear, and they could make these for me a lot cheaper. But I found on eBay, there's a gentleman that scraps a lot of these LeBlonds, and he had this whole headstock assembly I got for $350, and I'm pretty sure it's going to have everything we need in it, or at least most. If it's got one gear in it, that's a lot closer than we were and a lot cheaper. But I did get the original purchase order for this machine. I got that from LeBlond, and it shows that it was ordered in 42 to be shipped in 43. This is a 43 model. It was ordered by a machinery company that had a government contract. This machine was shipped via government bill of lading. It's all on the purchase order to the Army Air Corps. And the Army Air Corps, from what I've read, was set up in '42. So I'm speculating this was some original equipment for the Army Air Corps, which is pretty cool, I think. And I'm painting this back the closest I can find off the shelf to ultramarine blue, which matches their insignia from the time. So that's our update so far. We're going to get some shots in the next video of in the shop, redoing some of this stuff and getting it back up and serviceable. And hopefully we'll have a running machine before too much longer.